Welcome, dear friends, to another study of the Spiritist magazine. Here we are together, allowing us to have another moment where we study the Spiritist teachings every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We meet and discuss one of the issues of the Spiritist magazine. We're talking about issue 68 in the month of January of 2025 when this first airs. So, welcome to our studies if you're watching this live or on demand. It's always an honor and a privilege to be with you, especially during these moments where the earth is undergoing this beautiful planetary transition to evolve into a world of regeneration. So today we're going to talk about Neuropills on depression. This article is from issue 68, which is the newest issue of the magazine, which you can download free of charge at spiritistmagazine.org, as well as you can download the app for the Spiritist magazine. Clearly, FedEx wants to talk to me. Spiritistmagazine.org. If you download the app, you'll be able to browse all of the issues of the magazine free of charge, and perhaps you'll be able to, take your time reading this when you are on waiting for your order at a coffee place, waiting for the cashier at the grocery store, scrolling around, but never when you're driving or operating machinery. So this article is by the physician and Spiritist practitioner Nubor facure. He is a professor of medicine at the university. We go to the School of Medicine at Unicamp, São Paulo, Brazil. So today's issue, let me make sure I have it open for you, deals with depression, changes in mental health, and it allows you and I to discuss what should we do. As you may know, and if you don't, we'll talk about it. It is a sensitive topic. However, we know that the statistics show us that we have so many people in this world who is suffering from depression, anxiety, different mental health issues. Many of those who are privileged, right, by this world to receive treatment. Some places in the world, imagine, we have medicine. Some places won't have medicine and or spiritual knowledge, which is what we are gathering here today. So in this article, we're going to talk about neuropills on depression and the effect of stabilizing neurotransmitters and the spiritist therapy on depression. Let me get this together so we can read the article with one another. So he writes, let me put it here. If someone joins us, they can join us and find the article. It says, every physical or mental activity has its corresponding neuronal activity in some area of the brain. So inside your scalp is your brain. And we know from neuroscience, neurology, neurosurgery, we have mapping mechanisms to know the different parts of our brains are responsible for different areas of activity and of stimulation and reaction to the environment as well. So every physical or mental activity. So when I move my hand, there is a corresponding area in the motor cortex that allows me to make this movement, which is voluntary. There are other areas of the brain that are corresponding to us breathing and heartbeat and kidney function and digestive function that we're not even aware of, for example. But notice he says mental activity. Everything that you think, that you imagine, that you observe, right? This is going to come very important later when we talk about antidotes to decline in mental health, for example. So he says, I really want to make this smaller so that we can only focus on one paragraph at a time. See how you can do this at your Spiritist center. I'm going to make myself smaller so it's larger for you. It has been proven that during phases of severe depression, the hippocampus loses neurons. And when antidepressants correct the chemistry of neurotransmitters, the hippocampus builds other neurons that will act to cure the depressive process. Let's digest it. So, the hippocampus is an area of your brain on the sides of your head, deep in behind the lobe here, where you have your temporal lobes, that is, for amongst other things, responsible for consolidation of memory, for example. And the neurons, when you're depressed or if someone is depressed, not you specifically, dear listener, they lose neurons when we are depressed. So there are physical changes, right, in the brain during depression, which means if you lose neurons, you would open up space, for those neurons died, and some will be replaced. So when someone is taking antidepressants to correct the neurotransmitters in the brain, neurotransmitters are molecules that allow for the communication of one neuron with another neuron. Then the hippocampus builds other neurons will act to cure the depressive process. So if you were to be depressed or know someone who is depressed, we treat both the physical and the spiritual, and then we go to the psychological, right? Neurotransmitters, neurologists, psychiatrists can identify disease processes in the brain and the nervous system in general. Then we treat the physical with medicine that is blessed in the world. If you have an infection, you get antibiotics. If you take the flu vaccine, you protect yourself against severe flu and even severe disease, manifestation of the flu if you catch the flu later. So there are blessed physical molecules that we use to dispense the necessary medicine that we are here in the US blessed to have. Many parts of the world have, and other parts of the world will have one day. Then the hippocampus will build neurons. So some died, some were lost, and some will be rebuilt. So it's this constant renewal. This is what I want to bring to your attention as a neuroscientist myself. We, Spiritists, have a neurology, which is a field of medicine that takes care of the nervous system, a magnificent field of study to understand much of what the Spiritist doctrine teaches us. So let's see what the Spiritist doctrine has to teach us in regards to depressive activity in the brain. Fixed ideas that imprison us in persistent hurts and resentments. We all have these. Fixed ideas. I cannot stop thinking about the same thing. Those are imprisoning us in pain, hurts, and resentment towards ourselves, things we've done, towards others. They have a deleterious effect, negative effect on our brain. So what do you think? Your ideas that come from your spirit's mind imprint on the physical brain to have this negative, deleterious effect. And it is not good for us to maintain them for a long time. Why didn't Dr. Nubor said, don't think negative things? Not even Joanna de Angelis in the book Happy Life said that to us. And why is that different? That is because in the state of evolution that the spirits living on the earth, with rare exceptions, display, we will have fixed ideas that imprises us in suffering. But he says, it's not good for us to have them for a long time. So when you first detect a negative thought, an idea, fixed idea, then we have to work to correct it. We have to gain this the skills to do it, and we have to teach the kids and the new generations who are malleable, who are growing, who are absorbing all of this information on how to do it. So what do negative thoughts do? Negative thoughts that immobilize us due to depression can cause irreparable damage to the brain, compromising our mental life forever. Persistent thinking or imagining will create neuron patterns that can help or harm us. Nobody is saying anything or judging anything or miscategorizing anything who has experienced depression. We all have, at some point of our lives, experienced negative thoughts, fixed ideas, and some of us will develop the depressive process. And thank God, dear friends, when I was young, you didn't talk about depression. If you wanted to talk to a psychologist, God forbid, people thought you were crazy because you wanted to discuss your psychological, emotional health and work on strategies to be a better human. Nowadays, thank God, the newer generation is way more accepting, more open to talking about our struggles. And that allows us to learn from one another, to be compassionate and empathetic, to know that those people have the resources to thrive so we don't lose potential. So if you know someone who might be depressed, there are resources in your neighborhood. We need to reach out to those who suffer, and there's nothing wrong with it. Okay? So he's explaining to us the process of creating these patterns that will help or harm us. So what is your most current persistent thinking that you have today? Did you wake up this morning think life was beautiful? God was blessing us with one more day. You looked yourself in the mirror and said, what a beautiful child of God, whatever shape, form we have in this physical body. Most of us spend our days with negative, persistent thinking about our own selves and about others and about judging those who are in power instead of helping by change the persistent thinking to a pattern of helpfulness. Isn't that beautiful? So, prayer. Don't we all in Spiritism recommend prayer? Especially nowadays, these moments of planetary transition. We not only recommend, it should be mandatory to have prayers in the homes. Pray before you start your business meetings. You can pray without anybody knowing you're praying. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be all in your thoughts. Gospel at home for families to harmonize the environment, which starts with a prayer. Prayer is not only an immaterial message, it's not just me thinking. It also modifies the chemistry and functional structure of our neurons. So when we pray, we are changing the thought patterns. We are aligning with the good spirits. We are being humble to ask for help. We are recognizing the blessings in our lives, and we are adoring God for all that He has provided us in this life. So it is important to pray all the time. Learning new things, acquiring talents, practicing goodness. When was the last time? Because we need to make a list, and I don't have a single piece of paper with me. Pick up a list or write it on your phone. It's better if you write. While we still have that ability in the human race. Make 2 columns, negative, persistent thinking, and good thinking. And then every time you have a thought, write it down. Make a tally. And every time you notice a negative thought, you pray, God, please allow me to feel my mentor helping me modify this pattern. Because when was the last time you learned something new? People are like, no, I can't learn something new. When the computer changes, we all have issues, right? Acquiring talents, getting to have a profession, to speak a new language, to learn to do crafts, practicing goodness. How can you practice goodness in your life? Because you are one out of a billion incarnate beings on planet Earth. And then all of our 20 plus billion discarnate spirits living off of the earth. There is something just for you that God has reserved for you to do, some act of goodness that is for you. All of these expands the networks of connections between neurons, so they're more connected. When we are more connected, we have more resources, friend. Think about when you are in isolation, it's very difficult to be of help to ourselves and others because we don't have the resources. But when we are connected, so are our neurons. We're connected with one another. There's more areas of your brain that can be sourced for a certain activity. We are here to live in society, and that also applies to our physical cells. Our physical cells are in harmony. The brain does something, the arms do something, the heart does something, the lungs do something, the kidney do something. So it's very important that we think about expanding our network of connections. Surrender ourselves to vices. Who doesn't have vices in this world? This guy can be a vice when we can't stop spending time on social media, for example, sharing things that are not appropriate, propagating fake news, liking those who are spreading hatred. There's tons and tons of spirits doing this on the earth. Consolidating crimes, committing crimes of any kind, physical, spiritual, psychological. Revenge, right? When we think we're being wrong, then we want others to suffer because we suffered. We see a lot of this on our leaders this day. And it cannot be us because earth is not going to change until all of us change a little bit to the good. However, the process of planetary transition, as explained to us by the spirits, mean earth is progressing. We have to align with the sources of goodness and work hard so that we're granted opportunities to stay and reincarnate on the earth again versus being taken to a planet that is more aligned to us. Many spirits will suffer this sorting. It's a self-sorting. This is not God saying you go here, you go there. This is me as a spirit, and the sum of all of done on my vibrations and alliances of goodness will say, okay, this one is aligned with progress, this one is not, so they go to a different place to evolve there. Demanding undue possessions. We want more. We want a bigger car, bigger house, this, and the other, right? Imposing opinions when we think only what we think is what matters. All of these leave marked impulses that neurons fixate on forever. So these have lasting consequences to decrease the activity of these neurons with one another. So we create these fixed ideas. Go to the book Evolution in Two Worlds by André Luiz, and he will show you how monoideistic ideas, fixed ideas, can cause harm and keep the spirit imprisoned into its own mental creation after death, hindering the progress. This distance between imagining and desire is very small. People say, but it's just a little bit of a crime podcast. It is just a little bit of a violent movie, right? No, distance between imagining and desire. Your brain doesn't know the difference between real and unreal. If you watch a movie, you're going to relive those images inside of yourself and you will feel the physical consequences of all of that trauma, all of that crime. So, what are we feeding our brains? What are we feeding our minds these days? Good things, hopefully, because you're here at Cardiac Radio after all. Thinking and acting are closer than they seem. We need to review our hidden desires, our unfulfilled intentions, the small, disguised evils, the gestures of good intentions that have come to fruition, and the forgiveness that we insist on postponing, the help to others that is always put off. So that's yours and mine homework. What are our hidden desires? Do we desire power? Do we desire wealth? Do we desire money? What are my unfulfilled intentions? What is that I want that I can't get to? And then I make a plan to good things, right? Small disguised evils. So you do good when other people are watching, but if they're not watching, you take the resources from the work. Or we speed because it's only 5 over, right? But if everybody does, it's small, putting everybody at risk. The gestures of good intention that never come to fruition, the forgiveness that we insist on postponing. So who are those in our framework that we need to forgive? And that's what they're asking us to do. And the help to others that is always put off. So I don't go to the Spiritist Center to pray because I want passes and maybe they don't have. So it's all about me, not about others. I don't go to the volunteer because it's cold, but then I decide it's okay to exercise outside. Go to the park is fine when it's cold, but volunteering is not, for example. I could help the elderly neighbor, but then I know I'm on my way. I have my things to do. So those are the good things that we put off, we postpone. And what happens? He says, all of these attitudes are already imprinted on neurons in our brain and compromise us until they are resolved. So prayer, allowing this connection, and what else? Meditation signals a new patterns of connections in neurons that can be very beneficial to our mental life. So then you start with 30 seconds of silent meditation, then you go to a minute, and 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and all of a sudden you are at 30 minutes, which allows us to notice the thoughts, notice the reactions. There are many apps that can help with meditation, and always prayer. Because he says we should encourage its practice combined with prayers. So, prayer and meditation, looking at our hidden desires, the forgiveness that we postpone, the goodness that we are putting off, so that we can all grow and improve together. So, Dr. Nubor facure is a spiritist physician and faculty at the School of Medicine at Unicamp, São Paulo, Brazil. Dear friends, what a blessing to be with you today with the utmost faith in humanity and our potential to do the good and progress together, knowing that Christ is at the helm. If you know anybody who is experiencing depression, if you yourself experience depression, anxiety, there is help. The National Suicide Line, for example, 988 in the US and other countries have their own numbers. I encourage you to look for resources, talk to someone, and if you notice someone is struggling, please reach out to them. Reach out to them. Sometimes the phone calls, sometimes the text messages. When we are open to help others, the spirit mentors help them. The inspiration that comes to reach out to those who are in need will arrive, and the opportunities of service will be there. Dear friends, what a blessed day to be together. I hope that God will grant us another opportunity of being with the joy, being together joyfully, studying, and trying to apply the teachings of the Spiritist magazine. Please stay well, stay safe, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.